you just moved to the States, you're about to move out of your crib, right? Watch this video, feel me? Like, I'm gonna get into everything I encountered apartment shopping here. If you come from literally any other country, it's definitely a completely different system. This video is a warning label, guys, all right? I'm gonna get into it right now. The first topic I'm gonna get into is credit, all right? So again, I'll make a separate video on credit, but this is one of the biggest things when it comes to finding an apartment here. And it's interesting because if you're new to the country, you're obviously not gonna have any credit, you feel me? So it's like, they look at that first before anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll look at an apartment listing on Zillow, apartment.com. Like, those are the two websites I recommend, by the way, when you're apartment shopping in the States. But you go on those two websites, on the main page of the listing, they're like, yo, make sure you have a 670 before you even, book an appointment to tour. So if you don't got credit, you're probably gonna need 3 to 4, 5, 6 months up front. That's what some places will require. Or you're gonna need somebody that you know in the States, to bless you and just co-sign for you, you know what I'm saying? So definitely something you gotta consider if you're moving here for the first time. You either gotta have that bag or know somebody. Number two, application fees. So again, this is a minor one. It's not too much of a problem, but to lock in your interest for that apartment, you typically got to pay between $35 and $100. Just as an application fee, you pay that fee to apply. Some places they'll make you also add a security deposit at the same time with that application fee. So again, just to lock in that apartment, you got to pay an application fee, which again, I'm not used to that. When I have my cribs in Toronto, it's just you show your interest, they accept you, and then you pay your first and last, and that's it. There's no additional application fee. And of course, it's non-refundable, but on the bright side, once you pay that fee, you're locked into that apartment. So yeah, just something you should definitely keep in mind. The next thing is you can't just walk in and rent. In like Canada or the UK, like I know typically, like if you got that first and last and that place is vacant right now, you could just go. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not gonna do too many background checks and shit like that. But in the States, like it's gonna be a minimum 2-3 week process. Like you're gonna have to get that background check running, which takes time. That's what they say they're using the application fee for. They gotta run your credit. On top of having credit, you have to show proof of income. If you can't show proof of income, let's say you're a business owner, you file taxes in another country, you haven't really started making profit in the States yet, that's gonna be another problem. Again, you're probably gonna have to know someone or just have that bag. And sometimes you gotta retrieve bank statements and shit. And typically the first time you submit all your documents, they're gonna have a problem with one of them, you're gonna have to resubmit. And typically to get a bank statement to show proof of income, you need a bank account, which requires you to live somewhere. So it's just interesting how to get a place to live, you need to already show that you live somewhere in that country. It's very interesting. And it's gonna be initially frustrating because everywhere you go, they're gonna tell you the same thing, but you just gotta know, whatever you gotta do. I'm not gonna give you guys any advice in that category, but whatever you gotta do, just make sure you have the things that they want. The next thing I'm gonna go into is amenities, right? A lot of these apartments are charging $400, $500, $600 more than that, property or one bedroom apartment is really worth, right? And it's because they might have a gym, a sauna, a clubhouse. Some places have a barbecue, you know what I'm saying? But again, know what you really want, see the premium you're paying, right? A lot of units surprisingly don't come with a washer and dryer in the unit. So yeah, just a lot of things you have to consider, right? Really read through that thing thoroughly, read through that description. Again, I recommend everybody takes at least a month or two, living with somebody else, or at least researching heavily in the country you're leaving from before you come here. There's a lot of things you got to learn, a lot of things you got to consider. And again, the first crib doesn't got to be perfect, but you want it to be as good as it can be, right? So I just recommend trying to be as informed as possible. And again, you don't want to focus too much on amenities. You want to see how the culture is there, how the management operates, you know what I mean? Like you just have to do a quick Google search. Everything's going to be there. Reddit, you know what I'm saying? Like real people who've lived there are going to give you real testimonies on how it is to live there. And of course, like cleanliness, make sure that, the walls aren't peeling, there's no bugs. If you see a bug, there's probably more around, you know what I'm saying? So just make sure that, when you're doing that tour or when you're going through those online reviews, make sure that's another thing you keep in mind. So again, this is an informative video, right? If you're a first time renter, whether you're moving or you're moving out of the Duke's crib, you know what I'm saying? Like, just make sure you either have that proof of income, that credit, if you already live in the States. If you don't live in the States, be prepared to go through a whirlpool of shit to do, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to go from one place to another place to another place, you know what I'm saying? They don't make the shit easy. Either make sure you know someone or got that money if you're new to the country. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very difficult. The whole process is expensive, stressful, and in my opinion, fucking unnecessary. But just learn the game, research properly, you avoid a lot of finesses, all right? Drop your questions in the comments, I'll answer what I can. Like, comment, subscribe. We dropping free sauce every 2 days.